We're in the process of going live to Facebook, so everyone is aware.
Thank you, Lisa.
Remember to mute. Somebody's got a bunch of noise in the background. Gloria,
Uh-huh.
I think you got your mute off, so if you will, I think you're making a bunch of clicking sound.
Oh, you had some clicking sound?
I don't know, is that you? It's either you or John Seegers. I couldn't see you, so I don't know if he was doing something in the background.
Only thing I was doing was looking at some paper.
Oh, come on now, you busted.
That's all.
Oh, that's you with that mask on? I don't know. I couldn't see you. I know if it was you were typing in the background or something.
No, but I'll mute it. Let me see.
Looks like everybody else is, Mr. Seegers is muted. All right, are we ready? 6:01. Lisa, Howard? Is Brian here yet?
Yeah, do you want to wait for Brian?
We got Howard Nettles is here, John Seegers is here, right? How about Mr. Milling? Is Mr. Milling here? Someone? Sheila, I saw Sheila's here. Is Elaine here? Haven't seen Elaine. Haven't seen John Milling, Elaine, or Bryant.
Still a quorum.
Okay. All right, well, let's get started then. How's everybody tonight? Okay, I think we've got Howard Nettles, Sheila Backus, John Seegers, and myself here, along with the department heads and stuff. Howard Garland. Happy birthday, Howard Garland.
Thank you.
You graduated with me, right? You're behind me, right?
Oh, you were 82, I was 83.
Yeah, so that makes you around what, 38?
Plus 17.
Oh, 17, okay, yeah. That's my mother, while she was still 16. We were telling everybody our ages. All right, good. Well, let's go ahead and say a prayer. Thank everybody for coming tonight for our our budget workshop session. And I'll say a prayer real quick. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this night, Lord. Thank you for all many blessings you've done for giving us. Watch over us and continue to help us through this pandemic, Lord. Watch over us as we decide how to spend this money, Lord, and we'll do things wisely and guide and direct us in all that we say and do. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. All right, this is the 2020-2021 budget presentation. City manager and department heads. I think Howard Garland, you were going to take it first.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Just some housekeeping notes. As of June 9th, our 60-day window for having virtual meetings will expire from that emergency ordinance that was passed earlier. So we'll need to re-up that in case we want to continue to have virtual meetings over the summer, if that's the will of council, just so you know that. I want to put that out there. I guess the last meeting that we could have virtually without renewing that ordinance would be the June 2nd council meeting. So just make a note of that. That June 2nd council meeting would be 2 weeks from tomorrow. Also, we responded to a survey from the Municipal Association of South Carolina. They had been asked by the state to conduct a survey amongst municipalities as to what type of expenses had been incurred from the COVID-19 pandemic. So we submitted that last week. We've incurred around $35,000 in expenses so far, and we project another $20,000 to $25,000 in expenses now. So this was just a survey that the Municipal Association had been asked to put together by the state. We do expect some type of reimbursement. There was no word as to when that reimbursement would come, but I do feel certain that it certainly would not be during the 2019-2020 budget year. So anything that we incur additional expenses this year, any revenues would certainly come hopefully during the 2020-2021 budget cycle. And we've been fortunate so far that we haven't really taken any major hits as far as COVID-19 is concerned. We've had some scares, but nothing major yet. So just wanted to update Mayor and Council along those fronts. Does everyone have a copy of the budget that we sent out to you last Friday?
Howard, I have a question.
good.
What, just real briefly, what kind of expenses have we incurred? Is it related to payroll and that sort of thing?
It is some payroll, is also personal protective equipment for the fire and
Okay.
police and street and sanitation departments,
Sure.
things like that.
Okay.
Also for Servpro cleaning the city hall when we had the scare amongst an employee that came down with something and thought it was COVID-19. So
Okay, thank you.
it's like that, things like that.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
And that's all right. That's all right. It's a good question. Our staff is well versed in applying for reimbursements from the feds due to the many floods and hurricanes we've had the last 5 years. So this was almost just standard operating procedure for our folks these last few months. It's just a little different because this isn't an actual storm or flood. It's just a pandemic. Starting with our schedule of revenue on page 1, I'll go over some items here. If you look under 4003, our fire dues are up slightly, and we project them to go up a little bit again for 2020-21. Our business licenses, we've decreased by 5% over the current year, just because we feel like there is going to be a drop down in some revenues due to COVID-19 and our local businesses losing revenue for these 10 weeks. So we've built in 5%, and there's no really good model for that as far as what to go by. I consulted with some other nearby towns, and they all were putting in 5%. It could be lower, and the hit could not be as bad. We're fortunate because we got most of our revenue from business licenses and property taxes in January and February of this year. So our budgetary hit is not severe right now on the general fund side, but we will take a hit sometime next year based on how severe the business downturn is for this calendar year. So wanted to make a note of that.
You're anticipating 646,000 to come in from business license?
Yes, sir. Yes, we are.
Now, have we gotten anyone that can actually start going and checking business licenses each physically? Showing a license?
I'm sorry. We do. We have the capability through the ordinance that's written in that the police can check for business licenses. Police department can go in a business and ask if a company or a business does have a business license.
Does it have to be the police department, or could it be?
It could be. It could also be the codes enforcement office too.
Hi, everybody. I'm just coming in. Apologize for that. I couldn't get the numbers right, but I see you were talking about the business license, and I know I'm late. My only question was, I just wanted to know why it went down. Is that why? That's what you were explaining.
That's a reduction that we're anticipating due to COVID-19 and our business loss for these last 2 months in the city of Darlington.
Oh, okay. Says COVID-19. Mm-hmm.
Moving on, 4010 is building permits. We had projected around $210,000 for this current year, but we revised that downward because we're not sure when Georgia Pacific is going to be putting in for their building permits. It could be at the end of this year, of this budget year, which is the end of June, or the beginning of July. So we are waiting on that large amount of revenue to come in to the general fund and to the water sewer department. We've met 3 different times with Georgia Pacific during the spring, and they brought in some plans for their on-site preparation for their bowl and plate plant. And we feel positive that they will submit some type of stormwater plans and some plans for construction of a parking lot over where the old cornfield is across from the plate plant within the next 2 or 3 weeks. So some revenues will be coming in, but we're showing, again, a shortfall under 4010 for building permits, and we're projecting next year $260,000 for building permits. That's going to be a large chunk of change that will come in through Georgia Pacific and any vendors that they have working, and it'll be a great windfall for our general fund and for our water sewer department. Our court fines, 4015, we have projected 230,000, and they're going to be around 150. It's about 150,000 there. Note that we're projecting about the same amount for next year. The SRO reimbursements are staying the same.
Can we ask them? Hold on. Can we
Sorry.
ask them questions on those? I mean, that's a big drop. Let's go back to building permits. Is there? And I know this is, I'm assuming Alex's position, but again, Alex has more hats than I have in my closet. And Alex can't do it all. So when I call Alex's name, and I'm not saying he's not doing his job by no means, he's got too many jobs to do. But yet, like building permits, is there somebody out there, I mean, besides him, that's able to help him?
We have some.
that's able to help him far as seeing whether or not, for example, I ride by and I saw somebody building on Sunday the other day down Main Street. Is there somebody that stops by and says, hey, I didn't make sure you got a permit? Besides Alex having to do all that.
We use David Wilkes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we were going to contract with Safe Built to come in and also help us with our building permit program. It's similar to what the city of Hartsville does. They have someone come in and help them part-time, and also Safe Built comes in and helps them on larger projects. That's what we're doing short-term using David Wilkes on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And as far as what we do for the coming budget year, we can, when we get into the permits department, I feel a little better about discussing personnel as we move into each department specifically. This is just more or less a look at revenue now. So I understand the question specifically about as it relates, but we can certainly deal with that as we move on further into each department. And I think that's the better time for these specific personnel questions.
Okay.
Are we saving all our questions to the end? Are we saving all our questions to the end, or should we ask them?
It depends on how y'all want to go. I mean, if y'all want me to, I was going to present the revenues and then have Freddie go into the water sewer department. So if you want me to go through all the revenues and you can ask questions when I finish the revenues, it'd be fine, however you want to do it.
We just do it at the end. I'll just mark it when I get a question. We'll come back and ask if everybody's okay with that.
Oh, okay.
All right, so we're looking at the SROs, and that's a significant amount of money for our city of Darlington Police Department. It's over $250,000. We have 6 SROs currently, and the school district has been generous enough to pay for those SROs for the rest of the school year. So we have not had a loss in revenue with that line item. They have been generous in that, and wanted to thank the school district for picking up that tab. That's a lot of money. And we have been using those SROs in different areas. I'll let Chief Washington get into that a little bit more when we get to the police department tomorrow evening. Our broker's tax, 4075, is collected in June from the Municipal Association, along with 4080. That's insurance and tax collections, which comes in, and the Municipal Association collects 4075 and 4080 for City of Darlington. You see our interest on investments, 4100, is going to be close to $5,000 for this budget year, but we expect it to be down severely for 2020, 2021 because of the zero interest rate environment, which the Fed currently has us in. Our rent and lease program, we do get some questions about that sometime. That's 4,200. That dates back to 1970, and that's rent that Darlington County pays us to use Baldwin Gym for the county recreation program. So that's where that $1,800 comes from. The downtown retail is the rents that we collect for the retail spaces that the city of Darlington administers as a part of the original deals that Mayor Tony Watkins put together in 2007 and 2009, and that includes the retail spaces at the chamber, at the hair salon, also the tax preparation office, the cell phone store, the dress shop, and we also have a retail space, which is where our pad is located. It's just that the chamber and our pad, there's no rent for that, obviously, because we have our pad at the Gemstone Fire Station there on Castro Street, and the chamber is a part of the deal of the chamber giving the building, the old building, the 3-story building at the corner of Pearl and Castro to the city. We do not charge them any rent for being in that space. Franchise agreements is also important. If you notice that that's up by almost a little over $80,000, that's due to the city of Darlington working out an agreement with Duke Energy several years ago for Duke Energy to make franchise payments quarterly instead of yearly. It helps us from a cash flow standpoint. Used to be we got a large check for around $560,000 to $600,000 from Duke Energy in June, and now Duke Energy sends us a check quarterly. It helps us because we're cash poor in December and January, and we have a lot of money in February and June when most monies come in. So that's why we've got some extra money showing there for that line item. We also collect franchise fees from Spectrum Cable And also SCANA and the company that took over SCANA, Dominion Energy. So this where you're going to see some also additional franchise fees from 4,300. State aid is something that the legislature gives the state of South Carolina. That's 4,310. We've never gotten that full amount since I came back to the city in 2005. And that's up to the legislature to decide how much money they give to us. They have allotted $156,000 for next year, and we're going to get around $149,000 for the rest of this budget year. Victims Advocate account is a police department funding. That's $21,000 that comes from the state, and that helps fund Captain Kim Nelson's salary. She's our victims advocate. Our homestead exemption is up slightly this year to $136,000. That's $4,340, and that's simply anyone that's over 65 can claim up to $50,000 exemption on their home if they come and fill out the paperwork with Darlington County. Our merchant inventory tax and manufacturing exemption applies to businesses in the city of Darlington. Our local option sales tax and revenue fund that comes from Penny's tax that was passed years back at the county level. And we get that break because everybody sees that come in on their property tax bill. It's property tax relief for residences in Darlington County. Our accommodations tax is down severely due to one of our motels being closed for a considerable amount of time for renovations. So you see the downturn in that. We used to get around $16,000 in that, but we're only projecting around $4,200 for this year. Our set-off debt program was successful in collecting about $10,000 in fees this year. Our sanitation fees are a little over $1 million. Our out-of-town administration fees, $4,900. The amendment to the zoning ordinance, if someone wants to appeal to the Board of Zoning Appeals, any decision that's made by the Codes Enforcement Office, it's $4,390.
I would, one thing, 4370 on the sanitation fees, almost $400,000, close to an increase. Is that projected where we're raising the fees for the sanitation?
Yes, sir. That would be the projection of if we do pass that $6 per household increase. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry about that. I've just been going over the numbers for the current year, and I should have been reflecting also on the 2020-2021 budget year. The Housing Authority fee in lieu of taxes is an agreement that the city worked out with the Housing Authority. The Housing Authority is considered an adjunct of the city of Darlington. The mayor, in his capacity as mayor, can appoint members when there's an absence or a missing person on the Housing Authority board. And instead of that fee in lieu of taxes, they give us $32,000. It used to be around 17 or 18, but they've had higher occupancy these last few years. So that is something that we do get from them every year. Sale of property and city cars, $29,000. We had projected $125 with the sale of the administration building, but we're keeping that for right now. Our registrations for the rec department, $64,000. Insurance reimbursements, a little over $6,000. Miscellaneous revenue is $180,000, and let me go over that briefly and tell you what that is. That includes money from fire department equipment grant, Hurricane Florence reimbursement, also body cameras for the police department. That was a grant from the state of South Carolina. It includes money for the roof that we had done at Carnegie Library, which was donated by an estate for that roof, for that purpose, and also money from the PD electric loan for the playground equipment over at Bowen Manor. So that all adds up to around $180,000. The hospitality tax rebutation, that's for the position that works in Lisa's department, and that money is taken directly from the hospitality fund to reimburse the general fund for any expenses and salaries related to that position. Let's now go over to the next page. Something that's new is 4441 stormwater fees. If we do enact a stormwater fee, this is what we expect to take in. We also would have a new stormwater department, and we would expect to take in over $372,000. That would fund two people, and we'll get a little bit more into that when Alex makes his presentation tomorrow night. Recreation concessions, we see around $25,000. For next year, we've knocked it down to 16 for this year because of the reduction in the baseball season, but we also run concessions for football and basketball. Beautification donations have stayed roughly the same. And you see, I think that's it. So if you look at your revenues that we project $6,927,210 for this budget year, and next year, $7,549,523. So we have 5,000 more collected than we had budgeted for revenues for 2019, 2020. Any questions about revenues?
I have one question, Howard. 4455. One that says restitution paid to the city, and it says $10,000. What is that?
That is money that was paid back by the former clerk of court as a part of the deal that was worked out in her sentencing. So she had to repay the city restitution.
Oh, that was it.
And she did pay it back.
She did pay that back. Yes, she did.
Howard, this is a question not on this year's budget or next year's budget, but I had to pay my car taxes this year. And as I was looking at what I was paying, I saw that the county had a fee of some $35 or $40, $45, and the DMV had a fee of some $30, $35. And it had a place for the city, but it had no dollar amount there. And I was just wondering, what are those fees? And do they have, is that space available for a city fee? I'm assuming those are road and maintenance fees that are being collected. And I didn't know whether that was something the city should be taking a look at or not.
I'm familiar with what you're talking about. I believe the county does charge a road and maintenance fee. And I think it's $35 or $40. I haven't looked at one of those sheets in a while. And I think it is permissible for the city to charge some type of road fee, but we have so few roads. It's something that we've never done before, but we would be glad to look at it if that's something that the council wanted to pursue.
Well, I just know we're making some collections towards trying to get city roads paved, and I didn't know whether that was a good avenue to take a look at as you're developing your thought processes. Probably couldn't do anything about it this year, but for the 21, 22 type time frame.
Be glad to look at that. Yes, sir.
And Howard, right now, we're still on to hit our projection of $77,000 for the road fund.
I heard the first part of that, but not the last part. I'm sorry.
Are we still on projection to hit the 77,000 for the road fund?
I believe it's more like 60 or 64,000 for that road fund. I'd have to look that up. I think it is 57,000, but we haven't spent anything out of that account hardly because the cost of paving those roads is so much. As we've talked about in previous council meetings, we could pave several small roads, or we could almost pave a large one, but there's not much more we could do with that amount of money.
Understood. Thank you. Nobody else can ask a question. I have one more question. 4,200 is 4200. The rent lease program or the recreation program 1970. Can you educate me on that a little bit more?
Yes, sir. When Harmon Baldwin was the county recreation director, that's when that was put up, that the county rec offices would be in the Harmon OLS in the old armory. And the county agreed to pay us a rent. And so that rent that comes in is based on 1970 rent numbers. So they pay us, I believe it's quarterly for that rent. It's $1,800 a year.
Is there any way we can renegotiate this? I mean, I don't want to.
We get quite a deal from the county. We did this several years ago. There's about $180,000 in services and salaries that they pay for us that we don't have to pick up because they staff a lot of our staff that we use. So
Okay.
To renegotiate that would be opening up that whole area.
If you feel that it's fair, then we'll trust you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question for you. 4220, let's see, yeah, 4220 and 4250, where you're collecting approximately 41,000 or so, 41 to 43,000 for the loss in the rental spots downtown. Are we breaking even on that, or is it making any money for the cost?
We are probably down a few $1,000s because we waived the rent. That's why those numbers are down. We waived the rent the last 2 months for the folks that were closed. I
I'm
believe.
talking about just without that, just I'm saying just on average what we're charging for what it's costing.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I think we're probably $2,000 or $3,000 to the good, but a lot of that depends also on whether those folks pay the rent or not, on time or not. We have one that will pay the rent in a lump sum every year. So sometimes it's not going to show up in a certain budget year because they may pay it all the next year.
But they're all rented. If they're all rented, we're basically breaking even. Or
That's correct. That's correct.
that was for to get the stuff renovated. That was
That's correct. That was the Landmark Asset Services Dwayne Anderson deal from 2007 phase 1 and 2009 phase 2. And they control the apartments, and we have the retail spaces. Any other
So
questions?
Howard,
Oh,
who
sorry.
do the upkeep on those apartments?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
But who do the upkeep on those apartments? Do we have to pay for the maintenance and upkeep of those apartments?
No, ma'am. The apartments are an entity unto a Landmark. They run the apartments. We have nothing to do with the apartments, except when somebody calls and wants to know if there's apartments for rent, we'll give them the number for the Landmark office on Orange Street and tell them to call and talk to the manager, Helen Goodson. They control all the apartments, whether they're on the square, on Cashua, or on Orange Street.
So again, what is this that we're receiving? You saying it's some kind of rental fee. It's not rental, it's something else. What is this? It does this seem low to me anyway. The 4220 and the 4260. I mean,
Well,
it just, what is it then? Is it Landmark paying us back something?
they're supposed to be paying us back based on the rentals. Those agreements are very complicated. They're called, when they were put together, they're called wedding cake financing because there's different tiers to it. If you've seen a wedding cake, it's very large and it's got 4 or 5 cakes, a big one at the bottom, then a medium, and then the smaller pieces. I'll try to explain it in a very, without getting too involved. The Landmark Asset Group used grant money from the state of South Carolina and from the Community Development Block Grant, and also money from the city of Darlington to build those apartments. And they agreed to pay us back on phase 1 starting in 30 years from 2007. So the first payment will be coming back to the city of Darlington on phase 1 apartments in 2037. Phase 2 apartments, which started in 2009, they were supposed to start payments in 2010. And in 10 years, they've paid 3 times out of 10 years, claiming that they haven't rented out the apartments fully. So they've made payments for 3 out of 10 years on phase 2. Phase 1, they don't start paying on until 2037, and they'll make 20 years of payments until the year 2057. And I have every idea that if Landmark is still around in 2037, what they're going to end up doing is giving those apartments back or giving them to the city of Darlington and let the city of Darlington deal with them. That's my guess. Because the way it's structured is they rehabbed those buildings in 07 and 09, and they got the historic tax credits from rehabbing those historical buildings, which was great for them up front. And now they're using the rent from these buildings to help maintain other buildings in other areas, because they have apartments in North and South Carolina and Georgia and Florida that they've all rehabbed. And I believe at a certain point they quit building and they just started collecting and maintaining the properties that they have. So that's kind of where they are. I know that may be a long explanation, but it's a very complicated setup. And It's
Well,
something.
I'm kind of, well, that gives me a little bit more clarity, but I'm kind of like Brian here. Is there any way that we can renegotiate something? That just seems like we're losing all the way around.
Well, to defend Tony Watkins and that council, those buildings were gonna fall down.
Yeah,
The 3-story building on the corner, which was the old CNS downtown, CNS Bank downtown branch, the old McClellan department store, a Davis drugstore, the Yarborough House on Orange Street, and the old fire department building were all in really bad shape and condition. And so the city made what they thought was the best deal at the time to keep those buildings functioning. It's something that was popular 10, 20 years ago called adaptive reuse, where you take empty retail buildings and put apartments upstairs and retail downstairs. And it did accomplish its goal of keeping those buildings usable and making them where they're going to be around, hopefully in 2040 and 2050 for use in another function. And if you notice, that west side of the square is very picturesque. If you see a lot of pictures from an angle over at Tanapa, it looks really nice, a lot of those facades when they're painted and kept up well. So it was the city taking a stab at trying to save downtown in a way.
I think they did great with it. Just may need to renegotiate because our partners are failing to make the payments. I don't know what's negotiable, but if they're not making the payments, 3 out of 10 times, then at some point in there a legal way that we could go back on it and say that they're not fulfilling their end of the bargain, and maybe we could take over ownership. I don't know.
That was my question. How do you go with 3 out of 10 payments?
Well, according to the agreement, which is rather lengthy, they can take those payments and put them on the back end of the deal. And I was upset about that, and I didn't make payments to them for 2 years because they weren't making payments to us. And also there were some issues in the apartments as far as mold and folks flushing toilets that would overflow sewage into our retail spaces that we were having to clean up. So we've had some issues with those folks over the years. Some years are better than others. Right now we have a fairly decent relationship with them. I think we've had some issues where some toilets overflowed upstairs and they've had to clean up some of those retail spaces recently. So they are responding better now than they have in the last few years. As far as renegotiating, that would be quite a chore because you'd have to look at not just aspects of where they're not paying, you'd have to look at both the phase 1 and phase 2 deals, and they're both different. And they both involve multi-year repayments of grants that were tied to both of those projects. It's not just rent money that's involved, it's also grant money that was given by the state and the federal government. It's
So
quite
how much do they pay us? 20,000, correct? Or supposed to?
when they do pay, yes.
Okay, and how much are we supposed to be paying them?
Well, we pay them the retail rent. We also give them operational support for their water bills, which council agreed to in 2005. The water department sends them about $8,400 a year and help them write down their water bills. There's also property tax relief that they get every year.
They help them write down the water bills?
Correct. So if the
What
water
do you
bill,
mean, write down the water bills?
if the water bill's over a certain amount, they only pay up to a certain amount, and then we have to pay anything over that.
That was in the agreement?
Yes, it was.
Why would they want to renegotiate?
Who signed that agreement?
Tony Watkins.
Well, at least the buildings hadn't fallen down.
Yes, we gotta look at the right side of this.
amen.
If I recall, Tony and Dwayne and Rodney Langley went literally door to door in those retail spaces, begging people to be a part of that project. Some said yes, some said no. But they did go to every empty building in that area in 2004 to 2006, trying to get folks interested in that project.
So I'm still confused. I know I'm sure there's a legal avenue there, but if you owe me $20,000 and I owe you $40,000, why can't I just write you a check for $20,000 and go and collect my 20? So
Yes,
if they're not paying you, why can't you just take them? You said you went 2 years without paying them. So why can't you just pay them what they owe you, minus what they owe us?
As I tell you, it involves different pots of money.
Yeah.
And you can't really mix the retail money with the apartment money versus the payment money, which comes from a different pot. There's 5 different pots of money that they drew on for the phase 1 and phase 2 projects. And so when I said it was wedding cake finance, that's what I mean. It's different tiers of money that were involved with that project. Folks, I don't mean to be mean, but we're kind of getting bogged
Yeah,
down.
that's fine. That's a monster we need to look at then.
Well, I could certainly, call
Yeah,
the.
not today.
Well, right.
Yeah.
We probably need to move on to the water sewer department now, because
Yeah.
I'd like to get them on board.
Howard, before you move on, who did you say you could certainly call?
What was the last part of that?
You said that you could certainly call somebody about the previous subject. I was just wondering who that person is that you could call.
Oh, Landmark Assets, the company in Winston-Salem.
Gotcha. Maybe we should have Kevin look into this a little bit more, or have some questions for him.
Kevin could look at it, but it would probably need a strong real estate attorney to look at it.
I don't mind. I mean, any kind of, if they hadn't adhered to what they said they were supposed to do, then it can definitely be revisited. But as Howard mentioned, it's got a lot of different factors in it. But yeah, if it's something y'all want me to look into, I don't mind.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's definitely something we need to look at.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Howard. So, Freddie now?
Y'all ready for me now?
Yes, sir. How are you tonight?
Fine, how you doing tonight?
Good.
Page 3, I think Lisa's showing here, on 4,400, which is the water charges. We projected 468.5, 968.5. And estimating revenue coming in to be 845, 443. Hearing, I'm getting feedback or something. And sewer, well, we're projected at 1.1656, and we're estimating revenue coming in to be 985, 249. Going forward in the new budget, this is under the assumption we do the rate increase, is 1,095,443 be the revenue for water. And on sewer would be 1,385,249.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay, I got it. I see it. All right.
We'll go down to the little ones or whatever. The next big item is fees. That's where we charge capital on each bill each month. And we are projecting to come in about on target on that. That's called per meter. And with some new stuff, hopefully we can increase capital to 115,000 this coming in the next budget. Oh, everybody talks about reconnect fees. If you look down at 45.25.
Freddie, excuse me, but the capital fees is the increases from 90 to 115,000 is coming from what?
Some of it'll be Georgia Pacific and just new taps. I mean, we're Georgia Pacific will be putting in a couple of large ones, and
the capital fee is when people reconnect and stuff like that, or what?
Now, capital fees based off the meter size on your business or house.
Yeah,
that's a set amount.
That's a set fee that's on each one.
Yeah, there's a $2 charge on every residence meter.
$2 on a residential fee.
Yeah, and it goes up based on the size, like the CDBG plant, that's a 10-inch, and I forgot what it is, but it would be substantially higher than the residential meter would be.
So You say that's in the capital fees or that the meter fees back here? Is that 4503? Go ahead.
The capital meter fees is something similar that was put on some old meters, the larger meters years ago, and it's still on a couple of them.
Uh-huh.
It's never been changed.
Oh, okay.
Talking the capital fees, the
The
$100,000.
meter fee is on residential and commercial or just on commercial?
It's on some old commercial accounts.
The meter fee is just on commercial?
Yeah, it was a special fee on some old commercial account.
Oh, the
So
meter
if a
fee.
new, so if somebody connects now, do they have a meter fee on their account?
Yeah, that will be it'll go under the capital fee.
They're going to capital fee?
Okay. So let me get this clear. You're saying in capital fees right now, that all residential and the newer commercial.
That's basically most everybody. That's the new residential and newer businesses. There's only a few old commercial accounts that still applies to, but everybody else, everybody's paying capital fee.
I guess.
Some paying hip fee and meter fee.
Okay. I had a question about the meter fees, but I think you just cleared it up when you saying it's old stuff. I just want to know, besides is there any other fee in that besides it being a residential, the meter that we have at our homes? Or what the commercials that is there any other fee in that?
The capital fee is the only fee besides the water bill on your residential meters.
Okay. Okay. I just want to know if is there anything other than the meter? Maybe that's what I should say. Is that there's nothing else that fee only include is that designate the meter.
Yeah, that capital is meter fee. Yeah, that belongs to the meter.
Okay, very good. That's what I want to know.
All right, then 4525 reconnect fees. We actually exceeded our debt. We're looking at.
Can you back up? Can you go back to 4520? Did we miss that or I missed it?
Service fee.
Okay.
The service fees.
Service, customer deposits, miscellaneous fees. Yeah, we didn't do good on it this year.
And what is that from?
Yeah.
Old time, it used to be customer deposits, and they're not anymore. So it's now that's the service fee that you sign up. That's the service fee when you sign up, the $50.
Okay.
Service.
The service fee, that's what I'm saying, when people sign up, they have to pay $50, correct?
That's correct. There used to be there used to be a customer deposit. They bought like a bond and some people have, I think Howard has some that are from his parents or something that you could sell them back eventually after so many, but we don't do that. It's just a service fee.
But I'm saying is that, so at $50, you only had 5 people sign up to get new water?
That's $100.
$250, right? 260, 250. That's 260. So you have about 5 people.
No, I don't buy that one either. That's
Yeah. 5,000 down to 250 is a big drop there.
Yeah.
So
that's what I'm saying. That line is supposed to be where you're collecting when people sign up to get water, correct?
Yes.
And so you're telling me that you only collected $250 for people signing up for water, and along with miscellaneous fees. What is miscellaneous fees? What are other fees?
Probably a temporary connect or I don't know. I have to check on that one.
I mean, Sheila said the other day that somebody had to pay $50, one of her friends, or somebody she talked to her, and then turn around and had to pay another $50. So that person, I guess, had to pay $100.
Yeah.
And And we're only at $250. I know I paid $50 to have water connected. So ain't too many more people paid anything else.
I think that's a bad number.
Okay.
Okay,
Does miscellaneous fee, does that count like a late fee or somebody's paid late or what is it?
Now penalty, that's on the penalty that's collected down 4538.
Okay, I see that now.
so
All right, keep going.
I'm-
We'll mark that one question out.
okay, I just want to be clear. Are you telling me that we only had that 5 people to 5 new customers?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. That's the number's not right. We have to check on that number.
Okay,
Freddie, can you simply check on that number and get that back to us tomorrow?
Okay.
Will that sum it up real easy for us?
Okay, we'll do it.
Thank you.
All right, and the reconnect fees, $45.25. This is where we charge the $50 to reconnect them. And that one, we exceeded more, we had more cutoffs than we had anticipated because we did 50,541. And we're projecting 54,850 in the new budget.
oh, well,
And let's see, capital fund interest, that's interest, a little bit of interest on that capital money. Water tank cell tower revenue, we received $42,111, and that's, as far as we know, will be what we receive next year. They send more. New
All
meter
right.
revenue. Yeah, that's just good money for that antenna on top of the tank. New meter revenue, that's the money coming off the new meters. Penalties,
Let me ask you on that one too. Now, last year, of course, I wasn't here, so y'all projected $2,500 and you collected 36,000 for new meters.
that was a bad projection, probably.
Okay. Yeah.
Hey, y'all, some of you that's new on here, we worked off some bad numbers for about 3 years,
Okay.
trying to catch up. But and 4538 penalties collected. We exceeded what we estimated at 108,537, and we're projecting 114,750 this year in the new budget. And then we got the 4615 EDA lift station grant for $1,544,000 that we'll be receiving from the EDA and RI to do the lifting work. And total is a projection for next year is $4,398,661.
So those penalties, tell me again, those penalties collected, where did they come from?
Late fees.
Okay, so you got, okay.
all right.
So you charge them a late fee and you charge them $50 to reconnect?
Yeah, if you don't pay by the 15th of the month, you pay a late fee. And if you go 2 months without paying, you pay a $50 reconnect fee.
So you hit them twice, okay.
Well, it's like this. If you hand your water bill to your friend and you say, drop it in the box, and they drop it in the box after the 15th at 5 o'clock, and you're the mayor, you still pay a late fee. And then you learn, next time you drop it in the box yourself.
Mayor, can I please say once more, because
Yes.
I know we have our text going back and forth, but if you're not speaking or asking questions, please put your your stuff on mute because we had a lot of background noise. I know I'm hearing it, Bryant's hearing it.
Yeah.
For those of you who aren't speaking, there's several of you who have been on mute the whole time. So please adjust that. Thanks.
Thanks.
Okay.
All right. Any more questions on this one?
Any more questions on the revenue?
Yeah, just from a practical standpoint, who puts the information in here like the $260 and just these numbers in general? Who puts that information in? Who fills in the blanks? All right, Howard.
Howard actually filled his form out.
Okay. And Howard would have gotten that $260 from where?
That would have come from a report that was generated whenever I asked Ms. Pridgeon for a look at the revenues and expenditures.
Is there any review before it gets to us?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we look at that and go over that at the 6 month and the 8 month and 10 month period.
Now, I was just wondering when Freddie said that was a bad number, it needed to be looked at. I was wondering if anybody picked up that it was a bad number before tonight.
Only thing I know to do with that is to go back and look at whatever the numbers that we get from Ms. Pridgeon with the printout. That's what we go by, is what actually is put into the software when we get a printout.
Okay.
My question would be, if you're generating a printout from a software, would the number be coming from a software, or is it actually manually taken from somewhere and plugged in from?
The numbers that you see tonight come from those reports that are generated whenever we go and ask Ms. Pridgeon. It's the same reports that you get in your monthly council packets.
So it just seems like we're not doing our due diligence and making sure those numbers are accurate. I mean, is it a typo, or is it simply misinformation, or
We'll have to
make sure
check,
we're
we'll have
double
to check
checking?
it tomorrow.
Sir?
I said, well, we'll have to check it tomorrow. I'll be, glad to look at it in the morning and see. And this is why we do these things and go over them. We've met, I've met several times with the different department heads, and to give them the numbers to look over, ask them if they seem accurate, ask them to consult with the folks in their different offices. And those are the checks and balances that we have, is that we get the numbers from Ms. Pridgeon, and then we go over the numbers several times. And then we have general department head meetings to cover the revenues and the expenditures before we present them to you.
Which is a concern, Howard, because if we've been using the same set of numbers for the last 3 years, as was indicated earlier, or using that data, we need to make sure that we're making sure everyone's involved to make sure it's corrected.
Well, what Freddie was referring to was the audit situation that we had, where Hill and Jordan left us high and dry one year with an audit, and we got 10 months behind. And the software that we use, if you're more than 2 years behind on your audits, you can't look at your numbers. So we were having to guesstimate our numbers. That's what Freddie was talking about.
And we're sure that we're putting all the monies in the right places so they reflect that accordingly in the appropriate box, if you will, or GL.
I believe so, now that we actually can look at the numbers. This is the first, as Freddie said, it's the first time we looked at these numbers had these numbers available to us in 3 years. Everything else has been guesstimates from the software. Because we were 3 years behind on our audits. We got caught up. We did 3 audits in about a 10-month period to get caught back up. I think the last audit we presented to you was January of this year.
Perhaps the audits were done a little hastily, but that's neither here nor there. We just need to make sure that the numbers are right going forward, so we know what we're working on if we're voting towards something or trying to move in a certain direction.
Okay.
And that's not calling anyone out. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just saying, we have to run it somewhat like a business, and we've got to do that the right way.
Understood.
So is this report, the numbers that goes into this report, is it manually entered, or does it move from one software and load into another software? You have to manually enter these numbers.
The numbers that we get come from Ms. Pridgeon, and we enter them into the different departments based on what is on the actual numbers that Ms. Pridgeon gives us.
Right, so somebody manually had to key this in.
That's correct.
Oh, okay.
Freddie, you want to continue?
Where you want to go to? You want to go on into the new budget or what?
Well, you probably need to look at your, you've looked at your revenues, you need to look at your expenses now.
Okay. All right, on page 7, summary expenses. Personnel services, we budgeted 769,559, and we estimated to come in at 753,151. And in the next new budget, we're projecting or estimating the budget to be at 795,931 for personnel services and water and sewer department. Operating expenses, break them down, 912, waters distribution and maintenance. Budget was 536,610. We're estimating 491,892, and we're projecting in the new budget to be 687,060. Sewer collections was budget 363,712, and we're coming in at 329,954, and we're projecting out at 544,023.
Can I stop you for a second, make sure we're clear? Let's go back to the top where it says personnel services. You budgeted out for $769,000, but you only spent out $753,000, correct?
That's correct.
And so far we're at $1,190,000. We're down. We only spent out $1,064,000.
That's correct.
That's what, 136,000 approximately. Is that right?
Yeah.
So 912, where it says water distribution and maintenance, is that what we pay to upkeep the wastewater plant?
Wastewater sewer treatment.
We paying $500,000 for wastewater and sewer treatment to be done.
That's pay all my people.
Okay, so then what 914C is sewer collections? What's that? What expense is that then?
That's the people you're paying salaries.
Okay, and 914T sewer treatment.
That's
that
the
the
sewer
plant?
That's that sewer treatment plant. That's salaries.
So we
The
paying.
first,
So that's all 5, 7, almost $800,000 for the sewer treatment plant. Give and take.
The 769, that's for total. That's the whole water sewer department.
No, I was referring to 914 and 912. Roughly how much do we pay for the upkeep of the sewer plant?
This is salaries.
I'm
the
looking at,
top,
we pay $1 million in salaries in the city? The whole
Yeah.
thing. I'm looking at the whole water distribution and maintenance, sewer
Close to
treatment
800,000. Close to 800,000.
for, so how much again? Pay for the
numbers.
I don't know, two talked at one time. I couldn't hear you, Ms. Bax.
So again, how much do we pay for is in the water treatment plant where it says sewer treatment? That's the water treatment plant, right?
Water distribution and maintenance, that's the water plant. That's the wells. The 533,
Not-
831.
Say it again.
Water distribution, 912, that's the water part. That's the wells and the water pipes. That's
salary,
water.
And that's the water, that's the treatment plant, right? That's what we do to
Yeah.
clean, we restore the water, it's the treatment plant, right?
No, that's sewer plant. That's
Okay.
water's treating the water, getting water.
So this is the sewer, you refer, okay, so we're paying I'm trying to get this in this clear. The sewer plant, because I see it says sewer collection, sewer treatment.
I don't
Then it
mean,
says water.
if y'all would say the number exactly like 912 or 912C, yeah. So you're talking about 912 so that everybody's clear.
912, Freddie, is salaries of $547,447 to all of the people who are a part of the water system. Does that include the people you pay the water bill to?
Yeah,
People,
that's everybody in the 912 department. That's the water department.
and that's the ladies that work in the water department when we go and pay our bill.
That's the lady, part of my crew, myself, and 914C is Frankie and a couple of the guys, and 914T is the one guy at Waste Treatment.
Okay. How many employees are we paying that $800,000 to? 795.
It was 12. I'm
Okay.
down now.
Okay.
So
Do
we
we-
pay.
I'm sorry. So Freddie, does that mean that a lot of these dollars are overtime dollars because you're understaffed?
Oh yeah, a lot of them are overtime, and then you got your benefits. I mean, it's your total personnel charges. But yeah, there's a lot of overtime in here.
Does it include FICA and Social Security and those types of things as well? The dollar amount, is that our contributions towards the Social Security, the FICA and everything?
Yeah, that's total personnel cost, yeah.
But 914T is only for the sewer treatment plant, right?
That's correct. That's the treatment plant on the side of Hill Road.
That only have one employee,
One employee.
and he get $290,000.
No, you and expenses. I'm on the personnel. I'm at the top.
No, I'm talking about 914T. You said it was the sewer plant, right?
Yeah, but we were talking personnel services. You down in operating.
Well, that's what I was talking about from the start.
There's a
We-
914T in both personnel and
That's what
operating.
I was discussing from the start. Was expenses.
You're one ahead of us, Sheila.
Okay, well, let's go down to
Would be a big
operating.
salary.
Yeah, go down to operating expenses, 912, order this. That's all the expenses involved in operating. It's just anything under the 912 charge code. And 914, is the sewer collection part. And 914T is the treatment plant cost.
Okay, so now 914T, there's one employee at the sewer plant, the sewer treatment plant, or whatever you call it, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we got one employee that's $290,000.
You have chemicals and other costs involved. That's the total operating expense.
Okay, and 912 also is for the water.
912
Cleaning up the water and, right?
912 is strictly water, yeah.
Okay, for cleaning up the water.
I think to clarify what she's asking is the guy at the sewer treatment place, 914T under personnel services is at $46,135. Is that for one personnel?
That's paying yeah, that's the person there. The 290 in the middle is the operating expense of the treatment plant.
If you, on your 912 up at the top on the personnel, and your 914C, if a lot of that is overtime, given how that's time and a half or whatever the rate that it's going, if you have openings and you fill those, aren't you going to reduce that number exponentially?
It will some, but somebody's on call all the time and somebody has to cover the weekends.
I would think a lot of that, because Howard Nettles I agree with you on that, but at the same time, it's that we have seen where something's busted and all of a sudden they're out there in the middle of the night working and so forth like that, where they don't really have somebody that's just here 40 hours a week all the time would be extra. But then all of a sudden you got to call Frankie or whoever else in to do extra because of some, I don't know, again, I don't know if that's where it's all come from or not.
And I understand that. I guess I would just like to see the breakdown of what's really overtime versus not, and then how that's done. But, you know, that's a separate conversation, but I think it's worth looking into.
I'd be interested in that as well, especially if we're going to be doing these rate increases. We're obviously seeing that. I wouldn't say that the breaks in our pipes are exponentially getting more frequently or happening more frequently, but they are happening on a pretty frequent basis, that we might want to look at the possibility of hiring a crew. The sole job is laying new pipes. And whenever we have a break, we take them from laying the new pipe to fixing the break and then going back to laying new pipes, so that we can work on this overtime and the other issues that we have, you know, throughout the city.
I would agree with that 100%.
So the sewer treatment plant is maintained by our employees, or who maintains the sewer treatment plant?
We have one employee out there and also Davis and Brown operates.
So how much do we pay Davis and Brown for the plant?
If we get on further over into the expenses, we can get that breakdown.
Can we maybe should we save our questions again to the end? That way we can make it through it, and then maybe we can all have a similar question, so we just don't kind of keep stopping. Because I know we got a number of pages to get to. We're on number 7, and we got to go to 48 or 60.
Yeah. If we go to 63, if we go through the budget. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right, so last question to move on, right at the bottom of that page 7, we're looking at, we're under budget, $1.7 million, basically. You came in under budget? From 3 million, you projected 3,916,000.
Talking about the 210, I mean, 2,130,000. That doesn't have grand in it.
And that's also through the mid-year. That's not finished, correct?
So that's estimated out, extrapolated out the best you can. But if you add that $1.5 million on that, you come up a good bit more.
I'm saying the first column is what you projected to spend, correct?
Yeah. And that's got the grant.
Second column is what you spent. If you added $1.5 million to it, what you're saying for the grant?
Yeah, the grant's $1,544,000. Yeah.
So then we would still be an additional $200,000 extra, correct?
Yeah. Yeah. If you look at sewer collections, that's where the grant's in on the first column.
So my question is why don't we still have $13,000 to fix fire hydrants?
Because I got a hole in the sewer.
All right, Dust.
Okay, keep moving.
All right. Oh, y'all want to go to the budget? Proposed budget?
Go ahead, Freddie.
I want to go to page 53.
While y'all are going to page 53, Ms. Pridgeon had texted me and said that she doesn't enter the numbers for the water sewer department, that maybe the ledger numbers need to be updated, that some of these charges are not being credited to the proper account. So that may be something that we need to look at. Just wanted to mention that.
And did I miss something? Why isn't she here? I was asking why Miss Bridget isn't in the meeting tonight.
She was on the meeting earlier, but her computer is acting up, she said. She texted and said her computer was acting up. But earlier, when we first started, she was on here.
Good. Thank you.
I was.
She's still showing as being on there. Sure, she can hear us. She's on.
All right. On page 53. Now this shows the breakdown of your personnel services, what salary, insurance, bonds, workman's comp, retirement, social security to get that 533,831 number. And we're looking at coming in about 534,972. And we're projecting for the new budget of 547,447. We'll go down and get into the operating expenses, which the first line, fund balance 204. We used to have money to put in a fund, and with these proposed rate increases, I'm gonna want to put 150, try to earmark 150,000 to go fund balance to try to start building up some reserve money. So we will have some money. 210, printing and office supplies. We budgeted 17,000. We estimating to come in at 15,767, and we'll budget back with 17,000 again for the new budget. Postage at 17, we'll come in at 15, and we'll still budget 17. Contract, and this is the one Miss Backus was asking about. And we budgeted 74, and we estimating 69,600, and we'll budget 74 again for the new budget. This is your contract, Miss Backus. This is your Davis and Brown.
Okay. Say that, okay.
This is the contract operation and maintenance.
And what number is that? I'm sorry, I was looking at
212 expenses
12.
contract. 212.
Contract. Oh, yeah, the same thing.
Hey, Lisa's got out.
All right. Yes, I was looking at my old one and had that check.
Okay. And 214 is membership and dues. This is all our memberships and all the operate people in. 217 is auto operating expenses. We had budgeted 20. We projected 19,122. Thankfully, some lower gas prices, and we'll budget 20 again for next year. Customer deposit refunds, that's 450. 220 electric, water, and gas. We budgeted 84,000. We come in about 90,000, and we're gonna go back with the budget of 84,000. 221 telephone, we budgeted 5,000. Well, look, estimating about 4, and we're gonna budget 4. 226 maintenance service contracts. So we had 9,700. We spent 10,750. We'll go back with 9,700. 227 is machine and equipment expenses. We have about 108, and right now we're at 76.5, but we'll continue to budget to 108. Building repairs, $1,000. We spent 180, budget 1,000. Small hand tools with rebudget 700. And then go to page 54. Now 241 uniforms. We had budgeted 4,000. We at 6,800, so we're gonna up it. The budget projected to 5,000. Chemicals used in the water is 30,000 budgeted. We spent 31,243, but we're gonna budget 30,000 again. Medical lab supplies, we had budgeted 2,600. We'll keep that in the budget at 2,600. Physicals, we spent budgeted 600. We spent 500, so we'll keep the budget at 600. 256 meters, parts, and supplies. We had budgeted 50,000. We spent 27,349. We'll keep the budget at 50. 257 pipe fittings and hydrants. Budgeted 30,000. We spent 23,456. We'll keep the budget at 30,000. Advertising 261 with 1,000. We spent 500. We'll keep it at 1,000. Vehicle insurance. The budget of 4322. We spent 3443. We'll keep the budget at 4322. Building insurance was 4488. Spent 5161. We'll keep the budget 4488. Employee training 3500. We spent 2275. We'll keep the budget at 3500. Professional services is 45,000. We spent 52,072. We'll keep the budget at 45. Permits, this was any kind of DHEC permit or whatever, we budget $1,000. We estimate to spend 1,000. Special contracts, this is where we pay DHEC to sample the water. It was at 16.5, and they did a special sampling at 27.5, but that's not supposed to happen again, so we'll go back to the budget of 16.5. And other operating expense was at 6,000, and we spent 87.90. We'll keep it at 6,000. Any question through that part?
I have one already. What professional services? Give me an example.
Professional services stands for, we have to, by DHEC, we're required to do so many samples, and they have to be done by a certified environmental lab. It includes that, and it also includes any engineering work that's done.
Okay, thank you.
Freddie,
So-
and the same thing, if you spent out 52, what was special about this that you would go back, that you don't expect for that to happen again?
It may, but we don't know. We spent some more out during some of this storm stuff and other stuff that went on. It's going to depend on the amount of engineering and how much sampling we have to do. If we get a lot of flood rain and have to do additional sampling out at the waste treatment plant, it runs the sample cost up a good bit. If we have to sample every day.
So all
But you
this,
don't expect
all-
that. Go ahead, Shiva.
so all these professional services was paid out to one business, one service?
Not necessarily. Some went to could have went to Urban Engineers. Some could have went to Latham Consulting. Some could have went to Davis and Brown Engineering. Now the lab stuff goes to Davis and Brown Lab because they're the only one around outside of Columbia.
Under 272, so that's 272 special contracts.
Yeah.
You said we had to do some special testing this year that doubled the budget. Can you tell me a little bit about that special testing?
Additional tests required of permits and sampling that DHEC. We could have put it under professional services, but it ended up in the special contract. It really wasn't a contract.
I would think for future reference, you may want to do that because it looks like you're double dipping, if you will. I think if you keep it under the same heading, I think it looks more appropriate and raises fewer questions.
Yeah, it probably should have got put in professional services. Any more questions before we move on?
Who's responsible for saying where it goes?
I usually code most of the bills if I see them. Let's have somebody else engineering bill in. But I do most of mine myself, so I have to take the responsibility. Oh, we move on down to 381 if no one else has any questions. Building and fixed equipment is just $2,500 stayed in the budget. $385 machines and equipment. We spent 40, but we're gonna budget 25. Miscellaneous equipment, we had budgeted 4. We didn't spend that one. Traffic control equipment, we bought a lot more signs and cones. So Curtis can have more cones around town. Spent $3,500 on that. Radios and equipment, we really don't use radios much anymore, but we keep $1,000 in there. Water extensions, we got 25,000 in there. We didn't do anything this year, so we but we'll put it back at 25,000 in. New water meters. Somebody have a question, or I just get feedback? Okay. And bond payback on the bonds is 181, 174. And that's ongoing. And that's all of 912. If somebody's got any, let's see, that bond payment, that's what, 4 or 15. So we got a long ways to go on that bond. Anybody
bond-
else have
How many years is the bond payment, Freddie?
15? That was number 4 or 15.
Let me explain about that bond. It's for telemetric water meters mostly that we had installed in 2012, which allows us to do a radio read of all of our water meters in town. But it also includes bonded indebtedness that we have from the 1990s as a part of the old bond for the water line to go out to the food line project. So we rolled those two together at a lower interest rate several years ago, just so you understand what's involved in the bond payback there.
Any more questions on the 912 budget?
Is there anywhere that you think that, even on the smaller stuff, that things can be trimmed and be better for next year, or maybe there's a waste anywhere?
I didn't understand part of that. Was that Curtis?
Is, on expenses, is there anywhere that you think that things can be done better for us, better cost, less expense?
Not that I know of. We usually bid that big purchase of parts. We go to our 3 suppliers and get that. Of course, the meters, we don't have a choice. We have to buy from the one supplier that sells the brand meters we use. I mean, you can bid out anything. I mean, you can bid out O&M or you can bid out engineering, but my speculation would be you come about 25% higher. But as far as most of the expenses, there's not much we can change. Electricity and stuff, chemicals. We changed chemical companies a while back, a couple years ago, and got a big savings on chlorine. But I try to spend the money just like it's mine.
When we get the new lift stations and in line, will that help any with our expense?
Yes, it'll help tremendously with overtime and maintenance on these pumps. And probably electricity also, because we'll be replacing 25, 30-year-old pumps that's not energy efficient, putting new energy efficient pumps in.
Just, I can't remember, what's the timeline on getting that project completed?
It had like 18 months, so we're hoping it'll be out to bid later in the year. It's in the engineering stage now.
Okay. Thank you.
So last thing is so you're saying basically at the very bottom here, you're coming in $65,000 under budget?
On 912, yes.
And when you say on 912, that's the water department, water and sewer?
That's the water. That's just the water part. Way my budget is spread, 912 is any related to drinking water. 914C is the sewer lines in the ground and the lift stations. 914T is the sewer treatment plant, waste treatment plant on the side of Hill Road. That's the 3 departments.
Right. Okay, thank you.
So now we'll go into the bad one, the 14C.
So let me ask a quick question.
Okay.
On that 101, I'm reading the who is salaries and wages that we're paying. And it says an office manager, but who is the assistant office manager?
Teresa.
Teresa, what's her last name? Bruce?
Bruce.
Okay, thank you.
Teresa Bruce. Anything else? All right, on 914C, we went through personnel. This gives you the breakdown of the personnel part. Contract O&M, and this is Davis and Brown's. So we budgeted 37.5, paid 35. We estimating 35, but we keep 37.5 in the budget. Membership and dues, we'll keep it 200 for the people in this department. Auto operating expense was 7,400, and blew that one with 12,000. Electricity was 50,000, it's at 52, we'll budget at 50. Telephones 800, you spent 540, we'll keep it at 800. Maintenance service, 4,000, we hadn't used that one, we'll keep that one at 4,000. Machines and equipment, this was Mr. Millen's question about lift stations. Is we had 38,000 budgeted for equipment here, and we spent 43.5. Building repairs 3,000. Small hand tools 300. Painting supplies 100. CMOM. This is a program we got sucked into years ago. This is the sewer system collection part, and we have to do inspections of the manholes and all, so many a year, and so we budget 50,000 a year to keep this program up, and we spent 46.5 on this. Uniforms, we budget 2,200. So far we spent 1464. Chemicals, we don't use a lot of chemicals in this, but budget 6,000. Physicals 100. Stormwater, we had budgeted 44,698, and we spent 48,724. And I assume some of this will change. We budgeted in 25, and is the question I'll be whether this should stay in or come out with a stormwater department, but we'll work on that. Anyway, 257 pipe fittings. Vehicle insurance 49.23. We spent 62.26. Employee training, budget 1,000 for that. Professional services, we hadn't used any of that one. Sewer line repair. This is where we really below. We budgeted, well, we got 75 on there, but we all know we way over 75. But we're gonna budget at 275, and what this is, we gonna try to work on a grant to cover some other more lift stations, and we got to do something on Old Florence Road for Georgia Pacific. They want to go into the 6th Street lift station, which is Bowen Manor, which is about like Joe Louis, and we're gonna see if we can get a CDBG grant based off Bowen Manor to replace that lift station. So a lot of that money will be, hopefully be a match on a grant on the sewer line repair. 279, 7,500. We'll keep that at 7,500. Down in any questions on expenses, we'll go into capital. Vehicle purchase. We bought one vehicle. We had budgeted 30,000 and spent 35,432. Machines and equipment, we had 100,000. We spent 35,000. We dropped that, lowered that down to 50 this coming year, because hopefully with some new lift stations, we'll cut that some. Miscellaneous equipment, 2,500. And then we got the big one, the 396, the EDA RI lift station grant. That's got $1,504,000 in it. And we still paying for some work we did out at treatment plant years ago on a SRF payback at $16,818. And that's 14C, unless anybody has a question.
Freddie, I've got one. I'm sorry. Can I go back to 255 on the stormwater? So
Yeah.
we're at 44,698, and now at 48,724. Does any of the monies for the vacuum truck come from your department?
Yeah, half the vac truck, camera, and anything else that fell in previous to having really a stormwater budget.
And do you have that figured in here as well?
Yeah,
That
that's,
adjustment?
well,
Okay.
yeah, what we're counting on is with the stormwater that we leave a little bit in there. Usually comes time we could interfere with a storm drain on a sewer line.
Yes, sir. All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, you said something about getting a grant for Bowens Manor lift station, but I think the conversation came up a couple of months ago about a grant for Allen Street to solve this problem on Farm Street with this raw sewage coming up in the street. What's the status of that?
We're gonna try to work on that, but until the COG can get out, Lindsay with the COG can get out and do surveys for that area, we can't work on that one. But Bowen Manor automatically qualifies. Have to redo that lift station for Georgia Pacific with some kind of.
Well, I think
Right.
raw sewage, that lift station need to be addressed, because I'm pretty sure DHEC has not been informed for 15 years of all that raw sewage coming up in the street. And I think that's a health hazard, a serious health hazard.
I agree. We just need.
I was just
Yes.
gonna, what makes the Bowen Manor, Old Florence Road automatic?
Because of the housing, the type of housing it is, it automatically qualifies for the low to middle income.
So
But
that's
the
why
same thing on Farm Street.
street, because
But-
this,
They'll have to, but they have to go out and do community surveys. And she had that on the plans, but that was before Mr. Coronavirus came around.
but I'm saying that, Pine Village where the raw sewage is. Pine Village is still a housing development as Bowen Manor. And it seems like it's taking priority because of Georgia Pacific. And not the residents of Allen Street. That's what it's appearing to me. So I would like to most certainly revisit that. That's why I asked what.
It's on the table, but like I say, until Lindsay with COG can get out and work the neighborhood, we can't do anything on that one.
Well, what's the difference in that neighborhood and Bowens Manor neighborhood? It's the same getting out and working in the neighborhood. What's the difference?
He has to go house to house and do surveys.
And he don't have to
Through
do
the
that in Bowens Manor?
No, because that's all that's in there. That's all it is. Just so due to that type housing, they all got to be in that low to middle income, low to moderate income.
Well, I mean, okay.
That's the same. That's what Farm Street and that projects over there is the same thing, low and moderate income.
I'm sure it is, but she has to go do the survey, according to her.
Well, then it sound like to me you just put Bowen Manor ahead of Allen Street just because of Georgia Pacific.
No, we just know what we got to do too.
Excuse me?
I say we just know we got to do Bowen Manor, or the 6th Street lift station's got to be done too. It depends on how we can work them out with the COG. The COG will work the CDBG wherever she can work it. She's got that's the list of all of them.
Yeah, I can maybe add to that a little bit. I think just to accentuate what Freddie is saying is that some of the areas that you're talking about in Farm and Allen Streets have actual residential houses that aren't subsidized housing. And we'd have to go and do community income surveys in those houses. And we've been limited by that due to COVID-19. Is that kind of it, Fred? Is that?
Yeah, Lynn, I'm sure Lindsay's not out, going out anywhere now.
And Bowen Manor is all subsidized housing.
So,
And
so you're saying she don't have to go in Bowen Manor and do the surveys? Is that what you're saying?
No, but it's all subsidized housing.
So it's Pine Village.
But there, in that area you're talking about, there are residential houses in addition to Pine Village.
Bowen Manor is
Well,
literally,
it's Bowen Manor.
ma'am,
There is houses in the area that it's not.
maybe I can help and say it again, but Bowen Manor is one development that's obviously all federal housing, where the other neighborhood has residential houses. So they'll have to actually manually go and figure out the incomes of each individual house. So that's the difference between the two neighborhoods, if I understand everything correctly.
That's correct, Brian.
If Georgia Pacific is going to use that station, it is in, what are you talking? Do y'all not?
Well, it's like this. Let's just pull to the chase real quick so we don't waste all night. Bowen Manor was not pulled out because of Georgia Pacific. And please understand, as they're telling you, Bowen Manor's by itself. Over here, you got another neighborhood with houses. They have to go in and do it. So nobody has tried to pull out one over another because of Georgia Pacific. So we need to get
Okay, then if,
And that's all just on the table. There's nothing happening in either one of them right now, especially with this coronavirus.
But there are some houses now that's over there near
Go
Georgia
ahead.
Pacific. There are houses over there
Yeah.
that residents
They are
live
not
in Bowens Manor.
in the city limits. Those are in the county.
So
Oh,
you tell
boy.
me the only people that
No,
use that
not
lift station is
Fox.
Bowen Manor? So the only
No,
people
all-
that use that lift station is Bowen Manor?
Bowen Manor is all that's going in that lift station.
and that would take priority over one that got the house. See, when we say Farm Street, that is right smack dab in the middle of Pine Village, which is larger than Bowen Manor.
I wouldn't say that it took priority. I would say that it was a quick, easy fix because nobody had to go out. We were already in planning to go out into Pine Village in that area. And as they said, it was blocked because of the coronavirus, but it's still on the table to go ahead and pursue it ASAP. And we all agree that it needs to be done ASAP, period.
Yeah, because I mean,
You know, as the elected official from that area that is suffering, the quick, easy fix answer does not. We need a quick, easy, quick answer to the one that's in the most need, which is. And
But
that's
unfortunately, there is,
what I'm saying. It needs-
unfortunately, I would love to just walk out there and fix it. You would too. But unfortunately, we can't easily walk over and fix it because they're saying that we have to go out. And I don't agree with that either, Elaine. I think that we should just go fix it. But they're saying that we have to go out door to door because there are multiple type homes in that area.
because the lift
and
station,
do it. So I mean, it doesn't have to be there. I mean, if I was at that, shucks, prior to right now, I'd have still with mask, gloves, a paint suit, and go door to door because that's how bad it's needed. But are they specifying?
Unfortunately, Elaine, the need has absolutely nothing to do with the problem. The problem is one neighborhood is federally qualified and everybody knows it on the face of it. The other neighborhood has residential housings. And even though we may assume, and we're probably right, that it will qualify, you still manually have to go find out whether it qualifies or not. So it's not that that one got put in a secondary to the Bowen Manor because of Dixie Cup or anything. It's just one of them literally has automatic qualification and the other one does not have automatic qualification.
And see, Brian, what I'm saying, all of this has been determined before. It's nothing new. It's nothing new. And this should, and just that they coming up with it now, this isn't the first time we have heard that. It's just that there were other reasons presented as to why they had not addressed Allen Street. And then now, to me, I'm just simply saying now that we are able to address Bowen Manor area, that is just taken over. I'm putting it on the table, letting you know, because I represent that area as well. That it is now, if there is a quick, easy way to do it. And all I'm hearing is that they need to go door to door to make that determination. I don't see why we can't work that, because the same people are going door to door to their job. They done open everything, and I'm sure that would that the social distancing and wearing the mask would meet the guidelines.
Lane, me and you and Sheila and whoever else wants to go with us, we'll go find out if we can start going door to door tomorrow. How about
Okay.
that?
Well, I think the first thing we need to do is address DHEC with this problem and see what the law says and how serious this problem is with DHEC and higher up, because if this been going on for 15 years and that department and whoever didn't bother to do anything about it for the last 15 years or follow the law and report the waste every time it happened to DHEC, then I think we need to address DHEC first and find out where they stand on this issue.
All right, let's get going.
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll address it. Ready?
914T. Page 60. All right, personnel breakdown. Contract O&M, 28,000. We spent in 26.4, we stay at 28. That is Davis and Brown. Membership and dues, 200. Auto operating expenses, 4,000, spent 1950. Electricity, water, gas, 60. We spent 65. We're gonna leave it at 60. Telephones, 300. We spent 171. Machine and equipment at 30,000. We ended up spending 40. We're budgeting 30 again. Building repair 2, we didn't spend any. We put 2 on page 61. Painting, we leave 100 in. Uniform, 600. We spent 5, so we leave 6. Chemicals, we've got 60,000. We spent 49,850. We'll leave 60 for that. Medical and lab supplies is 1,000. Physicals is 150. Vehicle insurance, we budgeted, projected 1,006, it costs 615. We come in a little under. Building insurance, 1898, 2180, so it went up. It was lower. Employee training, $600. Professional services, 45,000 and 44,800. Budget 45. And again, this is the testing and engineering anything to do on a permit. The permit fees is $1,600. That's what we have to pay DHEC every year. Sewer bed repair, we budgeted 50, but we really hadn't done anything early. We spent 15, but we budgeted in 224, 147 to try to do a little bit of sewer bed repair work. Other operating expenses was 4,000. We estimating 3,600, so we'll leave the 4,000 in it. And that's the operation expenses out the sewer treatment plant. Any questions on that part?
Yeah, I got a question for 277. That's 277. The sewer bed. You got the increase to 224, 147. Is that gonna will that replace one bed?
That is to try to repair bed 1A and 1B, which is the 2 small ones when you ride in.
Is that a full replacement of that bed that I've been told about, or is this a kind of repair?
It's a repair, rebuild, repair the drain lines underneath the bottom. The under drains down about 14, 15 foot deep. So
Okay,
it'll drain.
And I hear after a while, it kind of, I'm assuming the word, I guess it gets clogged up. They have to dig all the dirt out and then redo the bed. Is that what you're doing?
We'll replace the drain pipe and redo some of the drain and maybe a little different style of drain.
Okay.
Basically, that's what we're doing is unclogging the beds.
Oh. All right.
Any more questions on that? All right. Capital, we got machines and equipment, 10,000. And miscellaneous equipment, 10,000. That's for lawnmowers, weed eaters, or whatever. And that is it under 914T. And that's all mine if anybody's got any questions.
You're still coming under budget a good bit, right? Calculating correctly.
Well, no, I'm spending now. I'm starting to pay for some hole repair work on Broad Street.
Okay, thank you.
Brady, do you want to give an update on East Broad Street, where we stand with that now? We've got some folks from Davidson Brown on there that could probably help with that.
Not a lot, Michael. You got anything new? You still on?
Yeah, guys, I'm Stu here. So the engineering is being completed this week. We've got some drawings for Freddie's reviewed tomorrow that we'll be sharing with Freddie, just to get his approval on the what we call a common header line, which is the sewer line that was not going to be as deep. We got to choose what side of the road at the end of the day, what side of the road that line is going to be laid. We have our suggestion. We just kind of want the cities to buy off on that and or either direct us in another direction. And that should be going out to bid next week.
And we're waiting to hear from Maria.
That's correct. We hope to hear from Ria by the end of this month. That's what we were anticipating, is to hear from them by the end of this month. If we go out to bid next week, that we have to allow for a 30-day window for the quotes to come back. By the time we get the quotes back, we hope to have the money from Ria so that the project could begin, pretty quickly.
How long do you anticipate the repair taking, Michael?
Guys, really, honestly, it would not scare me to say 6 months. Everything, when you're digging that deep, the weather has a major impact. If you tried to do it right now, it would be very difficult to get your select fill, which is the dirt that's got to go back up under the highway. That dirt's got to come from certain borrow pits, and it has to pass perk test. And then it has to be tested and make sure that the compaction is there. So it's got to be put in 6-inch or 12-inch lifts is what they call it. So you put 12 inches of dirt and then you compact it. Get a company kind of like SNME to come in, and they'll do a compaction test, okay it, and then you start with another lift. So it's a pretty slow process, and the dirt needs to be fairly, what I consider dry, because what will impact your compaction test more than anything is moisture. If your moisture content is too high, then your dirt could do what we call pumping. If that's the case, then you got to dig that dirt back out, and you basically throw that dirt away. So it's if there's bad weather, you need to hold off on your selectable fill, especially on your compaction.
Now,
As we see today, we're going into storm season.
and
And
as
once you compact it and it's approved, then you're getting ready to put another on top, and it pours down rain. What you put down there doesn't have to be taken out.
If you put it in there correctly, no, because what your competent contractors will do is they'll put it in such a manner that the rain will sheet flow off of it to what we would generally call a wet well or a whistle, so that rainwater can be pumped out. So if it's compacted, the water will sheet flow off of it, pump that water out continuously while it's raining, so you don't want the water to set. once it dries, the surface of it dries, you can go back to stacking your lifts on top of that.
But
Once
every
you get back to this top, then you can cap it with your stone, with your crusher on stone.
every 12 inches, you have to go and have another pressure test done.
Not every 12 inches. Of course, closer to the surface you get, the more compaction testing you want to have done. Typically, that's a third-party test. So, your closest people around here is S&ME. That's who we have suggested using in the past. I trust those guys. They do a density test, and they generally handle the proctor test and everything as well. So whoever is doing the contract, they'll give S&ME the information on where they are purchasing the dirt from, and they'll go and take their own proctor sample. That way it's a controlled test throughout.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right.
Now, Mr. Mayor, I can continue on with some summary of expenses for the general fund. If we could do that maybe for the next few minutes, but I'd probably wise if we knock off around 8 this evening, because I think things will move quicker, hopefully move quicker tomorrow night.
That's fine.
Let's go to page 4, which will be summary of expenses for general fund. We looked at revenues before we looked at the water sewer department. First thing we'd be looking at is personnel services. So this would be on page 4. Legislative cost, that's for your department, 54,000 for this year, 56 for next year. Municipal court is at 149 for this year. We're projecting 139 for next. One of the things that we have been doing in that department is we have an associate judge and a judge, and we have a judge that the associate judge comes in when the main judge, Judge Stux, has to recuse himself because of possible conflicts of interest with his defense attorney position in Florence. That's one of the reasons for the overage there. Administration costs, $372,000, projected to go $381 next year. That includes a 2% increase for all salaries across the board, whether it's water, sewer, or general fund. Public buildings cost, 43 to 44. Planning department, 112, backed it up a little bit to 111. We had a slight decrease there due to a knockdown in the cost for the insurance for that department. Police department cost, we've gone over budget $13,000 as far as labor is concerned for police department. We project next year $2,247,000. Fire department went over approximately $40,000 in labor this year. We're projecting next year at $684,000. When we do get to the fire department tomorrow night, Chief Kavanaugh will have a plan for you to cut down on those costs. The inspector's cost, which is the codes office, $114,000, and that also includes someone in there that's been helping us take down the dilapidated buildings. And we project costs next year there at $89,000. Street department, $324,000 versus $371 for this year. Next year it goes up to $436,000. Sanitation, $375 this year, $457 next year. Stormwater, which is a new department, lines 1 and 2 are for the garage. So lines 1 and 2 in your budget are for the garage department, which it is designated as this year. Next year it will be the stormwater department. If you do approve this, we would have 2 people in that department, and the personnel cost will be $92,000. For the garage department this year is $660. The cost has been $66,000. Recreation, personnel cost at $223. We go to $226 next year. We're adding an extra person because of the addition of the new ball fields out on Harry Bird Highway. Your total personnel cost for 2019-2020 are $775,589. So we're approximately $55,000 over the budgeted amount. Next year personnel costs $4,968,975. Operating expenses right below there, you see for legislative, That's roughly $10,000, and that's for you folks to go to the Municipal Association meeting in Charleston this year, or Hilton Head, some years it's held. Municipal Court, operating expenses, $16,000. We project $14,000 for next year. 520 is elections. Our costs were below budget this year at $7,000. We don't have any elections planned for next year. Our legal costs this year, we projected 35. It's going to be 45. We project 35 again for next year. Community promotions will be around $23,000. We budgeted 25. Next year, we project 21. If you turn over to page 5, you see accommodations tax. Those collections are down this year. We do project them to be up a little bit for next year to 3,200. Administration, 62,000 up from 47. That includes some of the costs for the extra audits that we've had. 51,000 budgeted for next year. Public buildings at 205,000. That includes our bond payment that we have to make on the all the roofs that we had replaced several years ago for all our municipal buildings. Next year would be 208,000. Planning department, 108,000 this year, 112,000 next year. Police department, 337,000 would be 334 for next year. Fire department, 125,000. And next year would be 110. The fire department has gone over budget this year because of a grant funding that we received, but I did mention that earlier under our miscellaneous revenue. Inspection costs are about 19,000 below. We project 60,000 for next year. Street department is 5,000 over for this year. Line number 2, we project 266 for next year. Sanitation department, 369. That's over about $64,000. We project 363 for next year. Stormwater, again, is lines 1 and 2 are garage. Line 2 is lines 3 and 4 are stormwater. And 8674 for garage, 660 stormwater for next year, 17,975. Recreation, the cost there under capital 164, next year 173. Parks department, which is mostly just the work for Williamson Park, is 572. Next year is 12,400. Recreation registration 46,384, 49,000 for next year. Non-departmental 54,332. Next year we expect to budget 63,717, 63,717. Capital outlay is going to be in your next page on page number 6. Municipal court 1,400. We project 1,400 for next year. Administration 988 for this year, 1,600 for next year. Public buildings, we've only spent 19,000 so far, but we have budgeted 75. That's where Councilman Gardner was asking about our city roads. We have not spent anything there yet. We have projected 68,877 for next year. Planning department 20,000. We have projected for next year and 1,800 budgeted. I'm sorry, 20,000 for this year and 1,800 for next year. Police department 41,500, 46,000 for next year. Fire department 113,000 for this year, 92,000 for next year. Inspections, it's 1,795 and 2,500 for next year. Street department $60,000 and 98,000 for next year. Sanitation at 10 and 92 for next year. Stormwater, again, that was the garage for lines 1 and 2. We project 262,493 for next year for capital outlay. A lot of that is for the bond payment, which we owe to Sterling National Bank in New York City. That bond payment is $180,000. Also, a large chunk of that payment or that line item is for the payment on the Vector truck. A percentage of that cost for the Vector truck does come out of that new stormwater department. Recreation capital outlay is $2729. There's your parks. We don't have any there. Registration, just $1,000. So you see your final cost there. Capital outlay 272816, and next year 673970. I know that's very quick, folks. Any questions about any of those line items?
So Howard, 801, what is non-departmental? What is that used for?
Non-departmental is going to be anything that we don't cover with the other departments. Sometimes that's going to be, let's say if we have some employees that need some they may want to have some counseling, we'll charge counseling out of that so it doesn't go to any one department. Let's say that we use an internal accountant, Kim Vinson, that comes out of non-departmental because Kim Vinson works on all the departments. Also, we charge out of that department for the gym fees that we use for Fitness World, that's charged from that department. And let's say if we have a city supper or a city cookout, or we get flowers for a funeral, or those are all charged to that non-departmental account.
Okay, so these gym fees, how's that gonna work out this year? Because with that gym being owned by the mayor, I don't think we're supposed to do that.
Well, I
So
could certainly,
how's that gonna be done? How's that gonna work?
I could check with the Ethics Commission on that. I don't have a good answer for that. The best I can tell you is from strictly from a budgetary standpoint, Mayor Boyd could not vote on that line item because it would involve a business that he owns. So he would have to recuse himself from voting on anything that involves funding for Fitness World. It's just as Miss Reed, Councilwoman Reed, could not vote for PDRTA because she has a sister that serves on that board.
But if I remember correctly, when in the class that I was in, as far as ethics is concerned, the city cannot pay a person or use the services of a person that's on the council. From one of the classes I've taken, but I'll research it and find it for you.
I'm not going to put our attorney Kevin Etheridge on the spot, but I will ask him that he call me tomorrow and we can look at that issue. Kevin, is that all right to do that?
Yeah, certain. I don't know the answer off the top of my head, but we can certainly look at it in the morning.
Well, folks, we're a little bit past 8 o'clock. I appreciate everybody's patience. These sessions can be quite interesting for us. I'd much rather do these in person, but I understand the situations that we're in. Tomorrow, we will cover as many other departments as we can, but I suggest if we have to spill over into Wednesday evening, is everybody all right meeting again for a possible meeting this Wednesday night?
That'll be fine with me.
Supposed to do a Bible study at 7 o'clock.
I'm fine with it if it's necessary.
I just don't want to rush through things tomorrow night because I want to give the other departments a chance for a thoughtful presentation like we've done the water sewer department this evening. Because we have some large departments in our general fund also.
If we need to do it, I'll make it work.
I will too. I think we just need to make sure that we're cognizant tomorrow when we're going through this, that we're not, repeating ourselves over and over about the same topic or same question. If we do that and we still run into Wednesday, then that's different. But yeah, I'm on board. That's fine.
Let me reiterate what Ms. Pridgeon said or texted to me earlier, that a lot of the numbers that are entered in the water department may need to be recategorized because some of those line items, they may be charged to areas where they shouldn't be. So the item that you were looking at, it may be being charged to some of those other areas that were over budget. And so we may need to look at just changing some of those titles and updating for that department. But thank y'all for your attention this evening. Mayor, I think we're good for right now.
All right, thank you. Thank you everyone for tonight. Do I have a motion for an adjourn?
I motion that we adjourn tonight's budget meeting.
I will second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, very good. Thank you. Thanks everyone. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Thank
All
you.
right.